directed solely towards you and not emailing slides. My name's Allie, and I thought of the idea of this presentation really with the intention of being inclusive. It was not my idea to be exclusive. I like men. I like working with men. I like designing with men. But I think as designers and folks that are concerned with accessibility, people who really want to contribute to inclusivity, we need to be very mindful of the role that women play. So traditionally, like what we see is we hear the argument of like, oh my God, the iPhone, no offense to anyone that works at Apple, the iPhone 11 is like too big for a woman's hand and she can't text and do this. And while that's important and that's like a common sort of example that we talk about, there's some underlying things that are like more indicative of like what a woman really needs. So that's what we're going to talk about today is like, we're going to talk about product design in a man's world. Many of us know that a lot of the statistics show that, UI, UX is still a male dominated field, and women are making strides, and we're definitely going to burn a hole here in the industry and in terms of, taking advantage of what we have to offer. Everyone, working in FemTech and working in product design, when I talk about women-centered design, I don't hear it, but I feel an eye roll. I just feel it. Even over Zoom, I just feel an eye roll, a collective eye roll. And this is not a kumbaya type thing. This is something that has a market, something that there is money going towards this, money to fund products, and rightly so, because there are gaps in the market. So thank you so much, Madhavi, for bringing that up. And so that's why I'm passionate about this. I want to challenge the world to think of products that are centered on women that are beyond pink. I'm tired of pink things. This is me personally soapboxing. I don't need a pink power drill. I just need a power drill that works. So thank you for the pink. Thank you for the thought. But I'm over it. So I think that's what we need to talk about today is functional design. How can we look at design for women and men? We all have a seat at the table. So going back to the collective eye roll, we all came from a woman. We were all birthed from a woman. Some of us have sisters, some of us have cousins, some of us have wives, so on and so forth. We all know a woman. And by the end of this conversation, I want to be able to show you, like, what is the art of the possible? Where is it that we're leaving? And where is it that there's opportunity and demand for it? And where are the dollars going? And when we're thinking about entrepreneurship and we're thinking about like foreseeing the future and, I got the next widget, I got the next iPhone, I got the next battery thing, whatever this is, then where should you invest? And I am not, a stock market portfolio, but I'm betting on women. So thank you so much, Madhavi. So this is the design. My name's Ava Lyles. I'm the marketing director at FemTech Focus. I'm also a design producer at USAA's Chief Design Studio. This is not sponsored by USAA or FemTech Focus. This is something that's an initiative of my own. So if you could go ahead and go to the next slide. We're going to talk about it's a man's world and product design. And who says it's a man's world? Me. I do. I can tell you why. I use things every day and I don't know why they are the way they are. But that's what makes us amazing designers and amazing innovators is because we all like look at things and like, well, why is that a thing? So, but by the end of it, please engage with me. I am taking a look at the chat. Allison is spot on. We're going to hear a little bit about what she just wrote in the chat. We got, and so feel free to ask me questions. We're also going to have a poll, so we can be a little bit of interactive. And if I don't get to your question, just feel free. I'm on Slack looking at the channel for this specific title. And if not, just DM me and my email information will be at the end. So this is a couple things I want to talk about, like what is FemTech? What is women-centered design? What excludes women in product design? 3 products that are dominating the FemTech field and why, and there's a market appetite for women-centered product design. So next slide. So where's the money going? The money, follow the money trail, and it looks like you'll be in a good hand soon. So there's $500 billion in annual medical expenses attributed to women, yet only 4% of healthcare research and development is targeted specifically at women's health issues. And part of that is there's a precedent that's been set. And we'll dig into that a little bit later. But it wasn't until 1994, maybe 1996, I need to get my facts right, but 1994, 1996, that women were allowed in clinical trials. So when you're talking about vaccinations, when you're talking about medicine, like women weren't at the table. We were considered to be tiny men. So they took the BMI or the height and weight of the man and said, I don't know, like maybe 75% of that is a woman. Yeah, we'll go with that. Okay, cool. And now that we're seeing that like there's this like vibrant community of inclusivity where women are going to be allowed in these healthcare products and services. So we're very much focused on products, and we'll take a look at that in a hot second. So with that said, let's go ahead and move on. So a little bit about me, and I'm not going to harp on this too much. One of the things I like to hear about in a presentation is like to hear about the person. Like, what does that person do? Where are they coming from when they're just like downing all this expert knowledge on me? Well, I'm a digital strategy consultant by trade. I've been in the digital realm, mainly in strategy and marketing. But most recently, I actually pivoted, and I was a senior product marketing consultant at Dell. So currently, I work at FemTech Focus, and we're basically a nonprofit that provides capital, support, pitch deck competitions, business plan reviews to women in FemTech. And this can be like either seeding or Series B or C. And it's really to provide some connectivity. You know, you'd be surprised that there's someone trying to build a widget in Canada, but they don't know of someone who's in Beijing. So how can they get that hookup? And how can we connect them with VCs that will fund them so that we can see these plans come into fruition and not just die on your iPad. So I've worked for the following firms, Dell, Mutual Mobile, and I teach at General Assembly. So that's my street cred, take it or leave it. Next slide, please. So there's a problem that I alluded to earlier where there's a lack of female inclusion in healthcare products. And then there's women-centered design, and then there's FemTech. And so what we're trying to solve for is lack of catering to women's needs and the things that make women's health uniquely feminine and not something that affects both men and women. So just real quick, Madhavi, if you could help me, I kind of wanted to throw a poll up there, and I wanted to see, like, have you ever heard of the definition or word FemTech? And so you could say yes, no, maybe, I don't know. Either way, it's cool. So just let me know how you feel. And partly is because I want to gauge like the where everyone's coming from in the audience and be able to cater so accordingly, because I don't want folks to be like, oh, what is she talking about? You know, like I hate that feeling of being exclusive, right? We're all about inclusion here, and that's what we're going to do. So I think that, okay, the poll is answered. I'm just curious. Okay, if you have not heard of it, no worries. Ooh, Rachel, that's a good book, Invisible Design and Women. I've read half of it, and it's on my nightstand. I will get to it before year's end, hopefully. Okay, cool. So poll answered, and we're good. Let me take a look at the numbers. Like I said, I think I have. All right, cool. So a lot of people haven't. This will make for a brilliant presentation, because if you had heard of it, this would be very boring. So let's go ahead and skip to the next slide. So basically, FemTech is health services and products that improve women's health and wellness based on pain points. So like I mentioned earlier, these aren't products that are necessarily pertaining to men and women. That's what makes them unique. And part of that is like, okay, breast pump, the design of the hardware of a breast pump, that is something that is uniquely geared towards women. Products and services that detect cervical cancer, that is uniquely women. Now, part of the fun of FemTech and part of the nebulousness is the fact that it's actually a fairly new definition. It's probably about 10 years old or so. And there are some FemTech products and some FemTech services that are designed for women, but might also be helpful for men. And the line is kind of blurry. And part of the fact that this is in its nascent stages is what makes it ripe for design opportunity. It was founded a couple years ago by a woman named Ida 10. And Ida 10 is the founder of Clue. Clue is the mobile app that helps women monitor their menstrual cycles. And so when she was putting this together, and she was one of the co-founders of the app, she was like, okay, this is something cool. I don't know what to call it, but we'll just call it female technology, FemTech. And so that's sort of, she was like the accidental matron of this word. And so it's what it is still a little bit fuzzy, to be quite honest. And if anyone tells you they know exactly what it is, they're lying. And because a medical device could be a FemTech application in the eyes of some. We run into entrepreneurs all the time who are like, well, I have this medical device that helps detect cervical cancer. I think of it as a medical device, but I don't think of it as a FemTech product. And you're like, okay, well, that makes sense. The fact that you think of it that way and you think of it another way, but either way, it's meant to be familial. The goal at the end of the day is to design products that help women. So next slide. So we covered this like a little bit. One of the things I wanted to say is, problem meets a partial solution. So these are FemTech focused startups that are designed to support women's health, which is an amazing investment opportunity because global venture capital investments across FemTech accounted for 1.69 billion with a B in the first half of 2019, first half of a couple of years ago. And so the estimated value in about 3 years is 9 billion. So what this means is dollar bill, y'all. This means that these are the people who are going to fund product design. These are people who, for the better or worse, say, okay, this is an industry that's taken off because of a justifiable need. These products don't exist. And we want to make sure that we provide inclusivity and do our best to include them. Next slide. So let's take a look at the past, and I will allude to some of what was talked about in the chat from some very savvy people who know about seatbelts and dummies. So Eva is no dummy. Eva, if you can see this kind of granularity, this granular photo, is a crash dummy that is embraced by Volvo. It wasn't until recently that car companies were expected to include a female dummy in a crash test. In the past, and definitely in the 1980s, they just basically used a man and then a small version of a man. We didn't have boobs, didn't have like the same stature as a woman. And so of course that's different. Like the way that the outcome is going to be come as a result is going to be a little bit different. And the implications of that are very serious. Women have a higher risk of whiplash than men. And this can be attributed to different anatomy and body strength. But luckily, like Volvo has created its own dummy. Ford also has one as well. But basically, women are more likely to suffer a chest injury in a car crash than men due to differences in chest anatomy. And so often when you see car crashes, that middle clavicle, like this sternum right here, will either crack or break because it's not accounting for the boobs. That's the medical term. So got to get a little bit medical here. So yes, boobs. For optimal protection, they've continuously developed the car structure for the safety belt and side airbags to minimize the impact on occupants. So this is something that was incredibly innovative because coming out of the 1970s, who cares if women are in the car, women dummies, and I care, we care. And this is an opportunity for folks like Volvo to be like, hey, let's lead the charge on this. And luckily other car companies are following suit. So next one. So an artifact itself that was also mentioned in the channel, in the chat, the seatbelts. And seatbelt vehicle safety was first patented in like 1995. So the cars that we ride in now, if you live in a city that has crazy cars on the freeways and such, is basically that strap across, and the strap across your belly are of the same technology of 1955 when, you know, cars were made of fiberglass. So there's been really little change in fit and comfort. And it's been something that, much to the chagrin of women who have basically, many of pregnant women have died in car accidents, not necessarily due to reckless driving or anything, but just due to the fact that the seatbelt was inadequate. It did not fit their anatomy. So you have companies like Arterlove, which is also considered a FemTech company, who are making these accommodations for women. And the result is that there's no additional forces to the abdomen, eliminating lap belt loading, and the double cross your heart belt system minimizes chest wall trauma while controlling the mother's upper body. So those are relics of the past, right? We're trying to get back to like a version 2.0. We're trying to get to like whatever it is that we need to settle on. But let's now look into present and what's possible for design in the future. So next slide. So when we talk about FemTech, again, these are things that are uniquely pertaining to women. And so Nature VR is an example of a company that's really leading the forefront of VR outside of the realm of gaming. So I know we have like a couple of folks here that are huge gamers. I came across a couple in Slack. This is basically using gaming technology in the childbirth prenatal realm. So this helps like women who are late in the pregnancy process, in the third term pregnancy. It helps with pain management, mother-baby bonding, coping with stress, and overcoming hormonal and emotional changes. And these things are uniquely, for women. And one of the things that I think is worth mentioning is this is something that didn't come from like a startup basement. It was actually Hoag Memorial Hospital Presbyterian Hospital, Hoag Memorial Presbyterian Hospital, and Behavior VR that were combining forces to produce this program. So it's been very successful, and it's also helped with nausea. One of my friends told me, who's pregnant, that it helps her with nausea. So win, 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 win. Those aren't things that men have to deal with, but women have to deal with them, but at least it's a little bit easier. Next slide. So Ava Visual Check AI, this is a cervical screening tool that we can use at home. So you don't need to go to the doctor's office. You would purchase this device. It looks sort of like a pregnancy test. And you basically can screen yourself for cervical cancer. And this is something that I know is, you should still go to the doctor. You should still get that consultation. But for some of us that are a little bit timid about our health, this is an ideal thing. So you can get tests now for like gonorrhea in the mail. You can get tests now for COVID in the mail. This is one of those things that allows you to have that privacy, and you can do it in under 60 seconds. The folks who product designed this said that they wanted something that was discreet, something that can fit in a purse, and something that was easy to read. It says start exam very clearly. Unlike a lot of pregnancy tests, it's like, am I pregnant or not pregnant? Is that a line, not a line? I don't know. They wanted to avoid it. So next example. So we're getting ready to roundabout. This is Grace. Grace is a device that helps with hot flashes. And what does this matter, Allie? This is actually for the older demographic, for women who deal with menopause. Among many things that come with menopause is embarrassment. And my mom went through this. She's like sweating, she has hot flashes, she's in meetings, and you don't want to like tell the world your business. So what Grace does is you can click a button and it cools your arm down. So it cools your body temp down. And so it makes that hot flash a little bit more discreet. It makes it manageable, and it's stylish. Look at this watch. It's whatever that is amazing. It looks like a bracelet. It looks like a watch. It kind of reminds me of like the smart watches that have the analog type face with the little hands. This helps you, and more importantly, this lets you know that you're going to have a hot flash before you have it. So if it starts to go off, you just go to the bathroom, you take care of it, and you don't have to have like this meltdown that can be kind of embarrassing for folks. Nothing to be embarrassed about, but I understand. So next slide. We got a couple more left. And I want to talk about the justification for this product design. And we talked about the eye roll a little bit earlier. And Jesse Draper, who's the head of Halogen Ventures, invests millions of dollars in companies that are in FemTech, says investing in women is strategic. This is not a charity. This is not something that women are begging in the streets for your money. This is something that we've seen Spanx do. Spanx is technically a FemTech company. That is technology that helps just suck you in. And I'm very happy for that. I'm a Spanx fan. Anyway, and so this is something that we'll continue to see in the future. Next one. So go-to-market barriers. These I would say are barriers to product design and getting your product into market. Women receive less VC funding, especially Black entrepreneurs who last year sadly saw 1% of VC funding, and that's pathetic. There needs to be more money spread around because more folks have some ideas around here. Unaware male VCs. Now, we love our male folks, but sometimes when a woman is walking into the room and pitching, or 15% of entrepreneurs in FemTech are male. But when you go into the room, you have to explain menopause, you have to explain cervical cancer, you have to explain nausea. And so there's a learning curve there. And I think, unfortunately, we have to hop over that curve before we can even explain the product. High barriers to FDA approval. FemTech products have been disqualified from conferences and competitions for considering to be inappropriate. And then, of course, the historical and systemic exclusion of women. Get out of here. Largely, this was one of my last slides, and I just want to thank you for your time. Why? What is the next slide, please? It's the why, the potential for better design. Why do we design? Because women got the money, and don't let anyone tell you different. Women hold the purse strings to $20 trillion worldwide, trillion with a T. We make the decisions in households. We might not, make all the money in the households, but we make the decision as to where it goes. 85% of consumer purchases, 80% of healthcare purchases as well, and 70% are direct-to-consumer things that we're looking at. So we're looking at things like the AI, cervical cancer, and 85% of folks out there that are designing these products and services are female. And shout out to the 15% of men. We need them. And what we see from female founders, and we see actually statistics show 2 times the revenue, 35% higher ROI, and 22% lower employee turnover. And I mean, that is something that is a testament to the need out there, to the talent out there, and the desire to build inclusive products. So what I would say, just to wrap up, this is something that, again, when you think of your sister, when you think of your mother, when you think of your aunt, when you think of all these folks, this is not charity work. By catering to the needs of everyone, it lifts the boats. Meaning that when women have their healthcare that is specialized and product designed for them, economies do better. Workplace culture does better because there aren't women that are at home sick, and so I think that we'll start to see this for the better. And I really hope that folks, men, women, dogs, cats, rabbits, everyone alive becomes an advocate for women-centered design and FemTech, because it really, really, really holds the key to opportunity in what we could all be doing. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Ali. And I hope you all enjoyed this amazing presentation. Now, Ali will answer some questions. So please make sure, if you have any questions, you post it in the Q&A section. Let's wait for a couple of minutes, Ali, so that we get some questions and I can read it out for you.
Okay.
So we have a person who wants to know, do you have any advice for women, especially people of color who are interested in entrepreneurship?
Yes. Do your homework. I think that one of the things that we need to be mindful for is homework. So when we're going after, one of the biggest pain points for women and minorities in general is money. And one of the things that Jessie Draper said is that she knocked on 100 doors, like literally 100 VC doors before she got an opening in order to go pitch someplace. So there will be hardship. And I also think that doing your homework is helpful. If you go to a VC's website and you see a portfolio that includes something that you do, it just sort of lets you know, like, okay, maybe they would be open to it. And I say that it sounds very basic, but when I talk to a lot of folks about where they're getting their money or where their plans are for pitching, they don't even think of that. They basically just go to a phone book, or if you remember that back in the day, a phone book online, and they're like, I'm gonna call this person, but there's not a lot of research that goes into it. And so that's one of the best things I would say is research. And you know, if you know what your competitors are and you know how they're being funded, there's no penalty for jockeying on that and taking a look at as, you know, whether that's something that would fit your own self.
Wonderful. So we have another question, Ali. So they ask, how do you advocate for a company's paid maternity leave?
That is something that is very contentious, right? Paid maternity leave versus paternity at all, right? Like if a company has paternity, great. I think there are statistics that show that maternity leave is important to the quality, health, and well-being of the employee. And so that's one of the things I'm always armed with is facts and research. So we know that like if a woman gives birth on Friday and she's back at work on Monday, which is not unheard of, you know, that her brain is going to be with her kid. She's not going to be a productive worker. And I can't blame her because I don't think I would be. But there are statistics that show if you allow that time for men and for women, they're actually more productive workers when they get back. It seems like, oh, we'll lose Bob for 3 months. Well, Bob wasn't even here mentally to begin with. And so it's really hard to advocate for that. And I think if I were to go to studies, I would actually go to Italy and like European studies and do research there, because there's a big ethos there that is very important. And they have a body of research that will show why. So go with research and be armed with, you know, companies that are doing it right and not seeing degradation to quality of work.
So let's take one last question for the session. We have Allison, and she's asking, how do we connect with existing companies to make someone aware of an improvement we want to see made? Do we talk to R&D VP?
Mm-hmm. Yes, I would say that or product, because that's something that product would be open to. Product departments generally tend to be like, they might not give you the green light, but they'll listen to you because they're like, oh, this person might have a good idea. Let's see how I can support them and how we can support each other. And because product tends to work very heavily with R&D, then I see product as being more of a viable opportunity. Reason being is that our R&D, while it isn't like the worst idea by any means, I think that's a great idea. They're already focused on something that they're developing. They're already focused on something that they're researching. So any sort of outside noise or ideas, I think they'd be less receptive to. But I haven't heard or made friends with a product manager that wasn't willing to listen to an idea and give some thoughtful feedback. I hope that helps.
Awesome. So great. Thank you again, Ali, for answering those questions and for the great presentation. It was a pleasure to have you with us today. And guys, this concludes the session, and thank you all for attending. We hope you have learned and enjoyed this presentation. And you can continue the conversation in the session Slack channel. And also, we moved the networking to Zoom, and I'll be pasting you the link here, and you can join over there for more networking.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ali. Bye.
Bye.